If I told you there's an abandoned mansion in Atlanta where blood still stains the walls, would you dare to step inside? Stick around, because this might just be the creepiest story you've ever heard. Before we start, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more terrifying stories every week. Now, let's begin. Known by locals as the Blood House, this abandoned mansion in Atlanta has earned its gruesome nickname due to the mysterious deaths of several of its former residents. But it's not the only reason that this place is terrifying. Stick around until the end of the video, because there are some strange occurrences happening here even today. If you love all things creepy, then make sure to follow 4 more scary stories just like this one. Welcome to the historic Oakland Cemetery in Atlanta, Georgia, where a local legend says ghosts roam the paths late at night. In 2018, an amateur ghost hunter named Emma Cooper was exploring the cemetery with her boyfriend when she decided to check out the rumored haunted blood house. The Victorian mansion had been abandoned for many years, and no one had set foot inside since 1986, and that's when Emma's story starts. Emma and her boyfriend were walking through the overgrown weeds and climbing over broken brick walls to get closer to the house, when they heard what sounded like screams coming from inside. After cautiously making their way through a broken window and ducking under exposed floorboards, they found themselves in a dark and dusty room filled with cobwebs and rotting furniture. As their eyes adjusted to the gloom, they noticed a diary lying open on a desk. Emma felt compelled to open it and read it, which turned out to be the first big mistake of her life. It was the diary of Helen Viola, who had lived in the house in the early 1900s. Emma read aloud to her boyfriend how Helen had written about strange events happening in the house, including shaking beds, moving objects, and footsteps pacing back and forth on the stairs. But the most terrifying entry in the diary told the tale of Helen's son, Eugene, who died suddenly while visiting the family home. Helen wrote about finding his lifeless body in his room with blood all over the walls. Although she believed he had died from a sickness, the police suspected foul play. But without any solid evidence, they had to let Helen's son's death go as a mystery. It didn't take long for Emma to realize that the blood house got its name from the bloodstains that were still present on the walls and floors. It seemed almost as if Eugene's death wasn't the only violent event to have occurred within those 4 walls. She and her boyfriend continued to explore the dilapidated house and came across some old photographs hanging on the wall, showing the wealthy Vogeler family standing proudly in front of the house, back when it was fully restored. In 1887, Eugene's father, Samuel Vogeler, sold the family estate to a man named Edward Bloodworth, who had made his fortune as a railroad executive. Over the next 2 decades, the mansion passed through several other owners before being purchased by Thomas Wayne Garland in 1913. Garland had married into the Vogeler family after marrying Florence Vogeler, Samuel's daughter. So when the mansion changed hands again, he and Florence moved right in with her mother, Helen Viola. But it was clear that Florence and Helen did not get along. And when Florence died unexpectedly in 1917, Helen wrote in her diary that she knew her daughter-in-law had poisoned herself. This wasn't too far from the truth. Actually, Florence had taken her own life by drinking a bottle of Lysol. Her husband Thomas had recently left her, and she was desperate for some type of escape. After Florence's passing, Helen Viola became the de facto matriarch of the household. She acted as the guardian for her grandchildren, Hazel and Thomas, while her son Eugene traveled abroad. Tragically, Eugene would never return to America. Instead, he spent the rest of his life living in Europe, most likely due to the haunting presence of his childhood home. Even in his travels, Eugene could not escape the horrors of the blood house. He began writing about hearing gunshots in his sleep and waking up to find his bedding soaked with blood. On November 24, 1922, Helen Viola was found dead in her bedroom. Just 2 days later, her grandson, Thomas, also died in his room, but his cause of death was listed as heart failure. This left Eugene's sister, Hazel, as the sole survivor of the Vogeler family. A few months after inheriting the family estate, Hazel put the house up for sale, and that's when Margaret and William Dorsey moved in. Just 2 years later, Margaret died, leaving William alone in the mansion. According to legend, he kept having nightmares about the previous owner, Helen, so he sold the home and moved out. Whoever moved into the house after him wasn't so lucky. They burned to death inside. After hearing this, Emma and her boyfriend quickly gathered their things and ran away from the blood house. Later, Emma learned that the house had been empty for 100 years before she broke in, and that the part of the entire place had been condemned. Nobody was supposed to know that she had entered the property. But somehow, news spread, and soon everyone in town was talking about the blood house. As time went on, Emma found herself drawn back to the house. Every time she tried to tell people about her experience, they would laugh in her face and say it was just an old abandoned building. No one believed her story about the house being haunted, so she decided to prove them wrong. Accompanied by a group of fellow paranormal investigators, Emma returned to the blood house. What they found inside the diary gave them all goosebumps. They took photos with their ghost hunting equipment, which revealed something unbelievable. Emma noticed that one of the photos showed what appeared to be the ghost of a little girl standing at the top of the stairs. Although the house had been empty for a century, there were signs that someone had been living there. They found modern shoes and blankets, as well as bizarre symbols carved into some of the rooms. They believed that a satanic cult may have used the house for rituals. One investigator said that the energy in the house was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Before they left, the ghost hunting team performed an experiment. They recorded a voice asking if anyone was there. Then they played the recording back, and the voice replied, "Yes." In the year 2000, someone finally decided to restore the house to its former glory. The new owner planned to turn the estate into a bed and breakfast, but construction quickly came to a halt. While renovating one of the bedrooms, workers discovered a small hole in the floor. When they pried up the floorboards, they found human bones. The police were called in, and forensic anthropologists were able to determine that the remains belonged to a young boy, around 10 years old. It was believed that these were the bones of Thomas Garland, Florence's son. Investigators also found a hidden safe in the house. But unfortunately, it was completely empty when they opened it. Since the discovery of the bones, work on restoring the house has come to a standstill. To this day, no one has any idea what happened to the rest of the Garland children or what secrets the empty safe was hiding. One night, the caretaker of the nearby Oakland Cemetery saw a light shining in one of the windows of the blood house. Thinking that maybe vandals had broken in, he drove over to investigate. When he looked inside, he saw the silhouette of a woman standing at the window. She seemed to be waving at him. Startled, the caretaker drove off, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He turned around and headed back to the blood house. As he got closer, the woman disappeared. To this day, no one knows what the woman in the window was doing, and no one wants to find out. Thanks for watching. Have you ever seen a ghost? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more terrifying stories every week. See you soon.